when you're doing, some would say spiritual work, I don't like to attach the labor aspect to any spiritual interface, because again, and I've said this many times before, when you associate, we got to do this altar work. Why does it have to be work? So no one really likes to work unless it's a labor of love. So let's call it something else. And when we attach that, it's important. So when we're doing the interface of anything spiritually, you want to prepare for it. You want to turn your phone off. You might want to put the do not disturb sign on the door. You want to do things that are not going to invite the opposite polarity, because it's a dinner bell. When you're about to embark upon something, and that's how you know that it's a divine occurrence that you had, because that's they want to block that as much as possible. They don't want you to have that. So that's a confirmation. So in the future and moving forward, whenever you're going to do something that is of spiritual consequence and edification, prepare for it first, and don't allow anything to block you or stop you or interfere with the transmission. It's all about transmissions, and transmissions should be solid and not interfered or interfaced with. Okay, negatively, that is. Mary.
My name is Terry Cartwright. I'm from Houston, Texas. I didn't have any visions or anything like that, but I do remember feeling the energy coursing through my body, and at one point I felt myself floating up off of the bed. But I was mainly very distracted, because of the phone and everything like that. So,
oh, the phone distracted you too? Okay.
But that's right. The one thing I do remember. I do remember an instance where I was floating.
I had an experience this afternoon, which I think is worth sharing because it is exceptional to me, and I shared it with my sister sitting next to me here. When we went to the Divine Shakmat Temple, and I was filming the statue of the God Shakmat, and I will have to show you the video later. So there's certain things in the video that I believe is not normal or is not what we are used to seeing, and she suggested that I should share that with you.
Of course.
Maybe you may help understand what was going on.
Well, one of the things, and this is applicable to all of you, the identification of who you are is being presented before temples, before pyramid complexes, and on different energy vortices. And it will acknowledge you based upon what it is that you, or who you have always been, not just in this life, but in other lifetimes. And it'll kind of give you an acknowledgement or a receipt as to who you are. So you might see light emerging from it, or a statue may actually talk to you. Right. There are many different things that could happen because it recognizes the energy that, or the energies that are inside of you. It also recognizes who you're going to be. It can see your future, and sometimes it will give you a green light to please continue of inspiration. That happens a lot as well. All of you, I didn't have to convince you to come on this trip. Some of you, I didn't even know were going to be on the trip until I saw your face out here. So something inside of you needed to come, and believe it or not, each and every one of you are going to, and it might not happen until you get home. The first time I came here, I had 7 very distinct initiations that I could not believe until I really sat down to think about why certain things happen. That's going to happen for some of you. So don't minimize the importance and the divinity of this trip, because it's going to hallmark and earmark the next chapters of your life.
I don't know if this is just a fuzzy experience. During the, I want to say downloads. Is that
Great.
okay?
Yeah.
During the downloads of the energies, I didn't feel anything until we got to the solar Reiki this morning. And I felt a heat which indicated to me that it was not planetary based. It wasn't even, heat is not a good description of what I felt. It was maybe like a warm glow or something, and it was on my crown chakra. Now I've had a lot of hot flashes. And this was nothing like that. Because I often feared working with Kundalini because of the rush, because I just assumed that it was going to be a rush of hot energy. This was like a chilled, warm heat. And it was almost immediate. It was almost like I had tuned into your channel. You know, I got the SRI Master channel over here. I'm like, wow.
If you allow yourself to draw a line in the sand, there are certain words that keep you locked into limitation. Dreams are one of them. So if you allow yourself to say recordings instead, you're giving a command to your subconscious mind to maintain the files of your experiences during your nightly travels. If you disassociate the other multidimensional aspects of your life as figmentative, if that's a word, or figments of your imagination or imaginary, you will begin to become part of the other extensions of you that are more real than us sitting in this room. So all of you have been in my classes in the higher ethers, and some of you don't remember it. And you know, one of the things that I always say is that this is not a dream. So when you wake up tomorrow, remind yourself of that. So sometimes when I look at people and I'm talking to them and they don't bring up the dream, and I know that they were in a class last night, I know that they're still using that terminology. So that's something you can integrate into your vernacular. It's okay to say dreams if you know the difference between what recordings actually are and dreams when you're speaking to a neophyte, so that they don't think you're crazy.
One, I'm super reluctant on speaking about because I've never had such a recording before.
Well, we definitely want to hear that.
I know.
Don't be shy, please. Please don't be shy.
And I only remembered it when I was in this room. So the first one I had a dream about, sorry, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I had a dream about Racina first, and it was very similar to what happened the other day, where she injured herself, and then we were helping her, and then we were encouraging her not to go on whatever expedition we were going on. And that was short and sweet. That's all I remember about that.
Okay.
There were other energies that I felt, but nothing where I remember, because I was, when you're waking up, you're ready to do the next thing, and then you just don't record what it was that you were doing. Now the dream recording that I had, that
you were originally reluctant to share.
I was walking down a street with a group of people, and I'm not familiar with who they were. They kind of look Arabic to me. There were 2 men, 2 women, and a small boy. And actually the 2 men were behind us. We were not with them. And then one of the men walked up to us and picked up the small boy, and, oh God.
Take your time.
think I could do it.
Okay. So obviously it was something that was unpleasant. Okay. And what happened after that?
I'm gonna try to say it. He picked him up and he broke his neck. Never had that kind of dream before. It scared me. Then he threw him off to the side of the road. And then I woke up.
So how close were you to that?
Oh, I didn't know the person. I didn't know them. I didn't know anybody. None of them were familiar to me.
So the man just took the little boy and
I felt like it was done to scare me.
that's not what it was. It was done to give you, what you saw was Melchizedek. That's who that man was. You don't understand. Okay. There's a story in El Quran about what you saw. And Moses wanted very desperately to interface with a higher principality. And Melchizedek came down. And Melchizedek explained to him, he said, you know, you've summoned me, and because you're a prophet, I wanted to give you the benefit of my presence, but you must never question me. And Moses said, I understand. So as he walked with Melchizedek, they spent the whole day building a stone fence. And Melchizedek bowed to the family and they kept walking. And Moses didn't understand that. So he says, okay, I've been quiet all day. Why did we do that? Melchizedek said, I told you not to question me. Okay, I'm sorry. So they went on and they got on a boat. They rowed across the lake. And before they got off, Melchizedek punched a hole in the boat sank, and they continued to walk. And Moses is like, well, how are we going to get back? Melchizedek looked at him. Moses said, okay, I'm sorry, I won't question you again. So they continued to walk, and Melchizedek saw a little boy. And he picked him up and broke his neck. That's exactly what you saw. And I'm going to tell you why you saw this. So Moses says, I'm sorry, but you just snapped the little boy's neck. Why? Melchizedek said, you have broken your own vow. And I'm going to explain to you why we did those three things. We built the stone fence because I can see into the future. And the dowry and the resources of the family, I wanted to keep safe for the future generations of this family, because this town was going to be raped and pillaged and plundered. So we hid their fortune underneath the stone fence and they won't find it. Moses said, oh. The reason that I punched a hole in the boat was because there were some entities that like to use boats that were going to cause destruction where we were going. We stopped that from happening, because if they don't have a boat, they won't want to interface with this beautiful place that we went to. And Moses understood that. The little boy who I killed was born into the family as a demon to bring disrepair into a continued lineage in the future. And I killed the little boy so that they would be blessed with an angelic son the next time. And because you don't have the faith in your teacher, this is the end of our union. And then he disappeared. And that Melchizedek was Lord Thoth. So it's a message to you to stop doubting and stop questioning.
I have been doubting and questioning.
I know.
Yeah.
And that's why you saw that. Okay? Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Tom from New Jersey, student also in the Galacticus movement. First attunement, a lot going on
Okay.
these two. First attunement, put my transducer on my first eye, had my divine beacon on, and it seemed like there was a flashback of all the day's events, especially the museum. There's a lot of hieroglyphics just flashing in front of my face. And then the segment when she was seated at the doorway, I saw her. And then we got to the Giza pyramid, and I was in front of the Sphinx. And there's some backstory to this, but there's a little cat down the top of the Sphinx on the shoulder I showed you. And the cat kind of turned, and it ran down the shoulder to the legs, and it turned into like a humanoid figure. And then next thing you know, Anubis popped up out of the ground, but then it was Anpu. And the Sphinx stood up, kind of stretched like a cat, did that, and then it turned to me. And then Anpu kind of went like this, pointed at the pyramid. And C will testify there's a door at the top of the pyramid just to the right of the tip with the sun in the background. And next thing you know, I felt like I was inside the Sphinx, and it was kind of just jumping up the top of the pyramid and jumped through the doorway. And then I was back at the same spot, and I ran up the pyramid and jumped through the doorway, and I did it one more time, but I closed the door behind me. And then I was in like astral space. I kind of shot out, and I encountered it was like a light body, but it was a swallow. And I just distinctly remember the tail. And then it kind of turned horizontal, and it was a hummingbird. And then Lord Toth showed up, but it was just his eye, because he's massive. And he said, "You're not ready to see more." And I said, "I want to see more." So he kind of just probed me a little bit. And then the cross of Ra kind of came out of his eye. And then it was a spiral. And then it was just round, like smoke rings just kind of came at me. And then I just saw alcohol. I woke up. It was 10 to 11. And she had actually asked me, she's like, "Are you up?" So then we did, yeah, and then we did the second attunement, and I slept through that until the end. Everything was very lucid. In the end, I remember a round table with, I believe there were hooded figures sitting around. It's kind of like a round table. There's maybe like 12 of them, like on the clock. I thought they might have been Time Lords or something. And then there were other smaller tables around them. So it seemed like it was like an inside of a giant clock. And yeah, I woke up after that. And then the crystalline Reiki was interesting. It was kind of like I saw like blue fractal flashes of lights like through cracks. And then it was like the top of, you know how the chefs like cut up like fruits and stuff to look like stars? So it was like a blue shining light, and then I went inside, and everything was like, it was like a cavern, like everything was crystalline and glowing blue. It was like plants and animals and everything. And then the whole cavern lit up. So I was like inside, it seemed like a birthing of a crystal. And then also my heart became crystallized. So crystal grew over that. DNA, really quick, there's a lot of oscillating and pulsating strands, like connecting and weaving itself together. It's kind of like a kaleidoscope. And then the solar Reiki, that was a lot. It seemed like a bunch of different modalities put together. So it looked like it was an eclipse of the sun. It was like a ring around it, and then it just flamed up into this big bright sun. And then it was a crown of a sun being like the face is like molten lava, and it kind of stood up like it woke up and was looking around. And it was, the crown was the cobra, but it was still like the sun. Around it was the cobra, then the vulture, and then it was a scorpion. And a scorpion kind of jumped at me. And And then Sekhmet stood up. I went back a real quick flash to the museum, and Sekhmet just kind of stood up. It's kind of like the stone broke from under, and she just kind of stood up. And then it flashed back to like a radar dish with a light shining out into space, going around and around and around. And then I heard,
Take your time.
there's a group of voices, and they said, "We found you." And I was like, "Who's that?" And it's like, "We're the Star family." And they're like, you're an angel, you're angelic. And I really felt that there. Like, it's at that moment they said, "You have to go now, you're about to wake up. Your time's up." And then the alarm went off. And that was it. Oh, and that was the beginning, but there's something else happened before that. It was like green sea moss, pale green light. It was like an ocean of moss, and a woman's face was like decayed, like almost skull-like, and she was growing flesh back on her face, and it kind of like circled out, and then there was deer and animals and stuff, and it felt like Mother Earth, like she was being like reborn or healing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was before the beacon, but that was just another thing that kind of caught me. But the Star family just was like right there.
Oh yeah, that's
So I've been
fantastic.
thinking about that all day. I just
Oh yeah.
tear up whenever just think about it.
Well, they and thank you for sharing that. That's huge, huge. So one of the things that I would say is that you have a great connection with Lord Thoth, and had you not, you've been pretty astute as a student and an initiate in pursuing, and all of you can take this, to the degree to which you apply yourself, that will govern the outcome of where you land. Do you get it? If you go to the gym every day or every other day and you work out consistently, the evidence of that is going to be empirical through your clothes. Spirituality is no different. So when you discover these things about yourself, you're allowing yourself to have contact with your family that you left way before you started coming here. And all of you have family that are not your ancestors, they're your star family.